Yeah, but that's just because you have bad taste in horror movies, man.
I'm just going to blow your list out of the water. And I remember for at least a week, I showered with the shower curtain wide open.
Oh, I still do.
No, I'm going to cut that. See, it's not that I cheat. It's that I cheat badly. I've been recording that whole time, so.
I remember Crash Bandicoot.
I'm a subscriber, I'm not a listener. That is, just want to mention, Rev's OnlyFans channel. No, Season of the Witch, my ass.
If you decide to put on the weird, like, faux British, you do whatever the hell you want to do, man.
All right, welcome to the Scare Bears podcast. Inaugural episode. Episode 1, maybe even episode 0, depending on how we label it. Scare Bears podcast, where my list rules and your personal favorite list drools. I am here with RevHorror, aka Chris, who is going to go back and forth with me. We're going to throw out some top 10s. We are going to kind of debate those, maybe go back and forth, maybe add in our own little, idiosyncrasies, tangents, spitballing, how it goes. How you doing today, Rev?
I'm not bad. How are you, Ken? You didn't introduce yourself, by the way. You introduced me.
I have to introduce myself?
I would think you do, man. You can't just, people are trying to get to know you here. Come on.
All right, fine. My name is Ken. I also go by Wild and Crazy on all the socials, but we'll get to that later. But yeah, I am doing well. Thank you for asking. So I guess my first question is going to be, and when it comes to your favorite horror movies versus the best horror movies, because we're going to do that episode later. For those of you who don't know, I think the first episode we were talking about is doing our favorite horror movies, our personal favorite top 10 horror movies, the ones that we love. Not necessarily the best ever made, just the ones that we love. So that way you guys can get a chance to know us and a little bit more about what movies we like to watch and what our style is. But yeah, Rev, let me ask you a question. Do you think that your top 10 personal favorites, how much crossover is there to the 10 best horror movies ever made?
I mean, I think there's definitely a lot of crossover. It's definitely not the same, though, because I think everybody's got, their guilty pleasures, the movies that they've seen more times than any other, just because they, just have to turn something on and watch it, escape, et cetera, et cetera. But, if you're talking best movies, you're talking about production values and scripting and, everything like that, all the stuff that goes into making what's considered a great movie. But, if you're watching Zombievers, nobody's going to say it's one of the best movies ever, but it may very well be your favorite, I think it's definitely a difference between the two, but there's also going to be a lot of crossover, too, for people who actually appreciate horror.
I completely agree with what you're saying. However, I will say that on my top 10 list of my personal favorites, I would only put 2 in maybe the best horror movies ever made.
Yeah, but that's just because you have bad taste in horror movies, man.
This could absolutely be correct, but I'm going to tell you right now, I got a feeling that I'm just going to blow your list out of the water. You'll see, man. You'll see.
You know what? And just for all the listeners out there, these are secret. We don't know what the other is making, other than just kind of knowing each other fairly well. Beyond that, we have no idea what our list is going to be. So if Ken has Zombievers on his list, I'm just saying I fucking called it. It's not on mine, but it could be on his.
Spoiler
and we're
alert.
Find out.
It is not on my list either. However,
God
there is a zombie movie on my list.
Ooh.
So yeah. My next question is going to be...
Well, okay, so I've got a couple of questions for you as well, since you want to try to fucking brain tease me right off the bat.
Please do.
Okay, so... this episode is all about getting to know us for our potential audience. So the 3 people out there that will probably hear this, you're going to get to know. I
think you're being very generous with 3. That's amazing.
Well, I mean, I'm going to listen to it. You're going to listen to it. That's 2.
No. I'm a subscriber. I'm not a listener.
Fair enough. That's reasonable.
And by the way, if anybody wants to do that, please subscribe. Don't have to listen. We're good with that.
Absolutely. Those numbers are what's important. We only care about the money you're making us. We don't give a shit about anything else. All right, so here's my first question for you, and I do have a couple, so you're going to have to bear with me.
Okay.
What got you into horror movies? What was your first experience like? Was there like a specific movie, or was it like somebody making fun of you for being a chicken shit and you had to like show them up? Like what happened?
Okay, so this is an interesting question because there's 2 things that bring me back to the original thing that probably started my love of horror. The first was that, I don't know do you remember? I'm sure you remember, but if anybody else out there remembers, there was a version of The Blob, not the 1950-60 black and white version, the original version. There was a remake of The Blob. came out in like the 80s, like the early 80s. There was a scene where like a guy got sucked into like a drain in the sink of a kitchen, and then like the blob was on the ceiling and he was like reaching out through the blob. Do you remember this?
It's been years since I've seen it, but of course, man, I got the fucking Scream Factory version up there.
I'm going to tell you this right now. That was one of the scariest movies I've ever seen. I was 4, and I watched this movie on regular TV. This was on, like, regular basic cable back then. This was not cut. It was not cut for time, not cut for anything. They're just showing that shit to a 4 or 5-year-old just watching TV in the 1980s. I couldn't believe it. And so I'm sitting there like, that's the scariest shit I've seen. So that also was probably my first horror experience. The second was, and I remember this explicitly as well, and this is like the first time that I remember actually, you watch Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho, and again, not that terrifying of a movie, especially to a 9-year-old. But then as a 9-year-old, you have to go shower. And we had one of those long tubs that had this long shower curtain and stuff like that. And I remember for at least a week, I showered with the shower curtain wide open.
Oh, I still do. Different reason.
That is, just want to mention Rev's OnlyFans channel. No, just kidding.
Hey, you know what? We'll see how this goes.
But anyway, so yes, I remember when I was 9 years old and that one. So that was probably my takeoff of horror. And then generally when I was younger, I was always interested in Halloween. I loved Halloween. It was my favorite holiday. I used to check out, read books and stuff like that when I was younger. Like I was reading, Stephen King, It, Shining at like 12, 13 years old from the local library and shit like that. So yeah, just that's probably my 2 earliest memories of being just terrified by a movie. And again, it wasn't the movie, it was the situations after the movie.
Sure.
Which I'm going to touch on my list later. But anyway, how about you? What was your first horror movie that you explicitly remember?
I'm with you. I've got 2 different situations, and it's wildly different situations. My dad was never really into horror. Like he would watch it, occasionally if there was like a really popular movie or something that happened to have just come out or whatever. But I never really did. I remember when I was, and I'm not entirely sure this movie because I haven't gone back and watched it, but this is what I think it is. There's an older version. It's one of the black and white, I believe, Invasion of the Body Snatchers movies where a hand reaches out from under the bed and yanks somebody underneath. And I would say I must have seen this. God, I must have been young. I have no idea when it was, but I do know that for the entire rest of my adolescent life, I would jump from as far away from my bed as I could to try to make it to where whatever was living under my bed couldn't reach out and pull me under. I did it every single day, every single time I went into my room. But I also had these big, like this wooden, what do you call it, like footboard or whatever that was like, those lumpy wooden footboards that they have on like the old 80s beds or whatever. I would jump over that and invariably would destroy my knee every single time I tried to jump over it. But what am I going to do? I'm going to risk hurting my leg, or some fucker's going to pull me underneath the bed. If there's a choice, I'll take having a limp for a couple of days. So that's number one. Like I said, I haven't gone back and watched the movie, but I think that's what it is. Number 2, and because of that, I was a fucking wuss as a kid. Like I didn't watch anything. I was so scared, going back to the video stores back in the day and seeing the VHS covers. I was just terrified. I would run away from the horror aisle and just wouldn't even go down it. So when I was probably 9 or so, and I went over to my little cousin's birthday party, and he was 3 or 4 years younger than me. So you're talking about like a 6 or 7-year-old, and he and all of his friends got together and they wanted to rent horror movies for his birthday. It was like a sleepover type thing. And I was so scared. I went into the bathroom and I called my mom and said, "You need to come get me because I'm so scared. I don't want to watch this." And she said, "Are you fucking kidding me? These kids are like 6 years old and you're like the older cousin and you're so afraid you're going to have me come pick you up." She said, "Look, just try it. It's not going to hurt anything. You got a bunch of people there. You don't have any reason to be scared. Maybe you'll like it." And I said, "Okay, fucking whatever, fine." So it was Child's Play 2. And They put it on, and man, I laughed my fucking ass off. It was one of the funniest things ever. I enjoyed like the little bit of the thrill, the comedy aspect, all of it kind of came together. And like literally since that day, I've been in love. Like I would go every single weekend and rent as many horror movies as my dad would let me pick off the shelves. And like I did that until I know Movie Gallery had like a 5 movies, 5 nights thing, and I would go at least once a week, oftentimes 2 or 3, because I could ride my bike there from my house. Do it every single week until I was probably 15 or 16 years old. So I've got such a deep base of the older horror movies because that's the era that it was in, those 80s and early 90s ones. But man, it was just it was like a literal immediate love affair after I got over being a fucking chicken shit.
It's funny you think you got over that.
Yeah, fair enough.
I'm just kidding. All right. What you said you had a second question.
Okay, so second question. Do you have a favorite subgenre of horror? Is there something that you will watch just because it's that? Like, I know everybody's got like, certain ones they prefer, but is there something you will watch knowing it's probably going to be terrible just because it is specifically in that genre that you love?
Ooh, see, I don't necessarily think it's going to be terrible. I love a good horror comedy. Like, I mean, anything that sits in a situation that's just like, we go in there and we know exactly what we're going for. We know the notes that we want to hit and nail them. Like Happy Death Day, or like Tucker and Dale vs. Evil, or, and we'll touch on this later just to give you a little preview, Cabin in the Woods, right? These are movies that are like, yes, we're going to be horror movies, but we are going to make them lighthearted and funny, and we're going to put them in situations. Like one of the best movies that came out in the last, I want to say 5 or 6 years, is Freaky. I loved Freaky.
Freaky was good, I agree.
Like anything that is a horror comedy, I'm going to automatically love. And that even includes bad movies that know what they're doing is completely bad.
Sure.
What I don't like is the bad movies that take themselves way too seriously. They don't embrace the badness. So like
100%.
a good example of that is like The Greenskeeper. Any movie where a scriptwriter is going to write that the killer stabs him through the back with a golf club, raises him up, and then squishes his testicles in the ball washer on the court, knows exactly what they're going for. And in that movie, they embrace it 100%. And that happens to be one of the worst but also best movies that's hilarious that I've ever seen.
100% agree. And actually, that's an interesting take, too, because I'll follow up that, and then I'll give you my favorite. So with a horror comedy, because I'm with you, they're amazing, and some of the best ones, I think there's a couple, at least on my list, and again, spoiler alert, how important do you think it is when making a horror comedy to focus on both horror and comedy? Because there's so many out there that really try to bring the laughs, and maybe they are really funny, but the movie ultimately falls short because it's not in any way scary. You mentioned one like Tucker and Dale. Tucker and Dale, like, there are some like legit, scary relative, of course, to the person, but they try to go for some real horror and gore in there, and it's not just joke after joke. So how important do you think that is, or does it not matter to you?
It's got to be a good balance, because you're right. You can have just a comedy movie that has death in it. Clue is an example of that movie right there. It's not a horror movie. There might be a couple tension-filled scenes and people are dying, but it's not a horror movie or even a thriller by any stretch of the imagination. But then you can go too far in the other way, where it's like you're too much horror, and then you try to crack this comedy, and it doesn't work. Yeah. It's like, why would you react, or why are you introducing a joke into the situation when everything in the ambiance of the movie, the music and the acting, everything else is trying to be serious? But then there's that mix of like, hey, we know what we are. We know what we're doing. Sharknado, for example, Jersey Shore Shark Attack. Sci-fi nails this.
Fucking Trauma.
Oh, Trauma, and spoiler alert, there's a Trauma Homer from mine too. But anyway, but yes, that's what I'm talking about. It's just like there's got to be this wacky, off the wall kind of screwball comedy that's just like, hey, we know what we're going for, we know what we're going to hit, and we know exactly what we're doing. So I would say that there's got to be a good balance. I would probably say probably maybe a little bit more comedy, then a little bit more horror. You add too much of those thriller elements, then that kind of will suffer it. So I would say kind of maybe a 60-40 split, maybe even a 55-45.
Sure, because you still have to be legitimately funny as well. It can't just be like a couple of funny moments for it to be a really good movie.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, a lot of horror movies have good one-liners, but that doesn't, that they're not any stretch of the imagination considered a comedy.
Yeah, that's fair. I like that. So, okay, so for me, I'm a slasher movie buff, man. Like, what I love about slasher movies, for like me personally, is most of them are god-awfully terrible, and I love them anyway. I feel like so many of the other genres, if it's a bad movie, it's just a bad movie, and it's hard to watch, and it's not really worth your time, other than to just like say you've seen it, you know what I mean? But with a slasher movie, there's so many terrible slasher movies, and like they're going to be terrible. Like you look at them, like you look at the cover art and you're like, fuck, this movie's going to suck. But it's a slasher movie, and like they know what they are, the rules are established, you know what's going to happen going in, and occasionally you'll see one that'll kind of bend the rules or kind of add something to it that you've never seen before. But it doesn't have to. It's not about being creative. It's not about changing anything. They're just there to gross you out, have as cool a kills as possible, and just it's popcorn horror, and I fucking love it. I would watch any slasher movie at any time with no expectation, just fucking enjoying it, man. That's exactly. I can't think of a genuinely bad, unentertaining slasher movie off the top of my head that I've ever seen.
Okay, so when you say when you're talking about slashers, are you a one weapon kind of guy, or are you most creative kill with different weapons kind of person?
It depends on the movie, honestly, because there's so many. And we'll get into my favorites later, and again, another spoiler, which I guess we're just going to have to dig in pretty soon because we're giving away some of the list. But I know I've got a few slashers on my list, and it's varied even within my list. I think there's some, if the killer's good enough, I think it's okay to have one weapon, but if the movie is not a good movie, the more varied the kills, the better.
Interesting. Okay, I like that. All right, interesting. I like that. Okay, well then, I guess that is going to be the perfect segue for us to kind of go into our list here. Before we do, there was a couple different rules that I kind of laid out. The first one was it's got to be your favorite movie, not necessarily what you think is the best. Obviously, if one of the movies that you think is the best isn't your favorite, that's totally understandable. Secondly, it had to have the horror genre tag on IMDb. And this is important because we're probably going to talk a lot about in the future, in the episodes coming up, about the difference between horror and thriller and what constitutes a horror film or what films are considered horror films or not horror films. Definitely going to have to touch on that. But I wanted it to be, you had to have the tag so that those debates were not going to take place until future episodes. So that one was on me, and I kind of got hoisted by my own petard on this one too, because I really wanted to put a film on that list, but it didn't have that tag.
So did you cheat at all? Let me ask you that, because I gotta admit, one of mine I did not discover, because of course I'm not a nerd. I didn't go check out the fucking IMDb tags. I just assumed they were on there. But one of mine is one that you mentioned today does not have that tag. So did you cheat? Do I have to make one up on the fly?
You do not, because I used my 10 spot for two different movies because one of them didn't have the horror tag.
Well, that's worse. That's worse than my cheat, so all right, fine.
See, it's not that I cheat, it's that I cheat badly, and that's what makes it,
it's endearing.
That's exactly. That's what
endearing
makes
and
me
charming.
Who I am, It's not that I cheat. It's that I just cheat really badly at it.
You know what? I'll take it. That's fine, because that at least lets me keep mine. I will take whatever excuse necessary so I don't have to, make something up on the fly here.
But you know what's going to happen is that if you say a film that you cheated on, I'm totally going to switch one of mine and put that film in if that's the one that that's exactly what's going to happen. So
that's
all right. Well then, okay. So then I will let you kick it off with number 10 for Rev, for Chris. What's your 10 film, man?
Okay, so before I do number 10, are we gonna? I know you had mentioned you had some kind of honorable mentions too. Do you want me to cover those first, or would you rather me?
We are going to cover the honorable mentions before number 1.
Okay, that works for me. All right, so number 10 for me is Hatchet. I fucking love Adam Green. And don't get me wrong, Hatchet is far from the best horror movie. It might not even make like a top 10 slashers list, but it is everything that I love about horror. It's gory, it's irreverent, it just flat out rebukes good taste, and it's completely hilarious. Green is one of my favorite directors. I love literally everything he's ever done, and Hatchet is, in my opinion, his most watchable and accessible film for the everyday horror movie fan.
Nice. That is a good one. That is fun. 2006 horror comedy. You know, it's right up my alley. A little horror comedy there. Plus, it's got Kane Hodder and Robert Englund. So how are you going to go wrong on those movies?
Yeah, I mean, he's just, it's one of those movies, and it's one of the few that you can like completely identify as a movie that was made by a horror movie fan for horror movie fans. It's the horror movie FUBU, really.
Absolutely. Yeah. He did a really good one. I want to say that it was Green. It was Frozen.
Oh, yeah.
Which was in 2010. I actually really liked that. It wasn't a comedy. Wasn't like, I mean, it was more of a thriller, but this gets into the whole thing. Is it a horror thriller when you can have wolves as the quote unquote killer? Or is it just a thriller of three people being stuck on a ski lift? Heights, there you go.
Heights is the fucking killer. No, but Frozen is fucking amazing, and it has no excuse to be as good as it is, because it's literally three fucking people on a ski lift, and it's amazing. And just the way that he shoots it, I mean, and then listen to him tell stories about it, about how, you know, they're up on the mountain and they're trying to figure out how to shoot these people on a ski lift. Like, that was an actual ski lift. Like, how do we get this done? It's incredibly creative. It's a bottle movie taking place in essentially one location throughout most of it anyway, and it's incredible, and it really shows what a fantastic filmmaker he is.
It totally is. It totally is. But yes, no, Hatchet is a really fun movie, and I definitely agree with your number 10 that does make the list, but unfortunately doesn't make mine, because my number 10, kicking it off, and this is where I cheated because I have two films in number 10 because I couldn't debate which one to kick off, is Tromeo and Juliet from Shawarma Horror Studios. Gotta love it. I love this film so much. There is nothing better than taking Romeo and Juliet and making Juliet drinking a potion that turns her into a pig. That is just quintessential horror film.
It's quintessential trauma for sure. But you know what, man?
Oh, absolutely.
I am a huge Troma fan. Troma is one of the biggest reasons why I got into horror in the first place, and I have never seen Tromeo and Juliet.
Oh my god, I can't even find it.
I have a copy on my shelf, and I've never seen it, which I'm sure will come up a lot while we do this podcast, is that I own a fuck of a lot of movies to have seen almost none of them.
This is literally the only movie that I own on VHS, because I got, because it's like, when I was in college, I got rid of all my VHSs and stuff like that, not knowing how awesome
because
that
it's not
VHS
1988
was.
anymore.
Right, but VHS is awesome. But anyway, I was like, yeah, this is the only movie that I own on VHS. Oh wait, I take it back. I also own Star Wars, the 1990 THX enhanced version, not the special editions, the re-releases in '97.
Oh yeah,
not those, just the original ones that were just THX enhanced in the mid '90s.
The originals before he went and fucked it all up.
Exactly, the OG. But anyway, yeah. So Troma horror film. Oh my god, Tromeo and Juliet. I cannot say that this movie I love enough, because I am an English nerd. I do love Shakespeare. I love Romeo and Juliet. This is the perfect companion piece to Romeo and Juliet. It is so beautifully fucked up that you're watching it and you're like thinking to yourself, what the fuck is going on? But also, how amazing is it at the same time? And yeah, I mean, in today's world, I probably shouldn't recommend anybody go and watch this movie, but in today's world, it probably doesn't work. But when it came out, it totally worked at that time.
Okay. So, all right, I accept that. Again, having not seen it, I can't really tear it apart too much. But which is better, Tromeo and Juliet, or the Claire Danes, Leonardo DiCaprio, Romeo plus Juliet?
Well, I mean, I think that Tromeo and Juliet's better. Although, Leo did kind of nail it in that movie.
Dude, that's such a fucking good movie. Like, I know I'm not supposed to like that because I'm a dude or whatever, and I'm like big and manly.
Nonsense.
Dude, that
First
fucking movie
we're
rocked.
going to spell that right now, man. It doesn't matter. Dudes can like any movie, all right?
Amen
it doesn't
to that.
matter, okay? But
don't get me started on The Notebook.
All right, so from there, the next on my 10 list, because this one, technically, Tromeo and Juliet was labeled, and this is what's crazy about IMDb and labeling, and this is why I was just like, this is a bullshit rule, and I should never have made it. It labels it as a comedy romance, which it is a comedy, and it is a romance, but it's definitely a horror movie.
Dude,
It
How
is
to Lose a
not.
Guy in 10 Days is not a horror movie.
In what way isn't it? In what way is it?
Frosted.
Okay, so horror movie number 10. I'm just going to kick it off. It, Chapter 1.
Wait, what?
It, the movie It, the first It Chapter 1.
Is not considered a horror movie on IMDb?
No, it is. No. This is my number 10. This is my official number 10.
Okay. I got
Romeo
you.
and Juliet wasn't. So yes, It Chapter 1 is my official number 10, whereas Romeo and Juliet was my parentheses number 10.
Got
But anyway, It Chapter 1, I love this movie so much. This is what, like, horror goes through this evolution, right? You got the 80s, the quintessential, 70s and 80s, the John Carpenters and the Wes Cravens and
Sure.
and everybody coming up and then just like kind of defining the way the genre is going to go. Okay, and then you move into the 90s, and the 90s goes into like with Scream coming back with that tongue-in-cheek stuff, but then also go into found footage, and then from there go into independent horror. But like It Chapter 1 is like, what would happen if we made an Oscar-worthy horror movie? Like this is like Silence of the Lambs, which was the only quote-unquote horror movie ever nominated for Best Picture. This is like, we're going to take horror to another elevated level. This we're going to bring forward on a different level to say, what if we took, just the style and the filmmaking of Oscar contenders to horror movies, and I loved every bit of it.
Okay, so hold on. I'm going to stop you there for a second. Now,
Please do.
I also loved It Chapter 1. I thought it was great. I saw it in theaters, and I will say I saw it in theaters, and the couple in front of me brought their, 2-year-old child in there, and I really thought, I was like, are you fucking kidding me? This is going to be awful. That kid watched the whole damn movie, laughed, through the scary parts. I think it hurt me a hell of a lot more than it did him. But, okay, so I'm with you. The quality, the production quality is phenomenal. 100% agree. Oscar level, stop a little bit short of that. The actors are fine. They're good. The production quality, again, is great. The effects and whatnot. I mean, this is a truly terrifying movie in some parts. So I'm with you on that piece of it, but Oscar's a high fucking bar,
Nonsense. That movie could have gotten nominated for cinematography. 100%. 100% could have gotten nominated for cinematography. All right.
I don't know. That's pushing it a little bit. All right. I mean, it's your list.
That's
whatever.
insane.
Fine.
I mean, come on, man. Like that movie. I mean, in terms of let's think of all the scene breaks in that movie. Okay. First off, you got the opening scene, which was just the jaws extending to bite his arm off, and then him crawling away from the sewer with
Sure.
one arm, and then the hand coming out a la Poltergeist style when he grabs a kid and throws him under the bed, but throws him in the sewer instead. And then you move on to
Sure.
when they're flipping through the slides in the garage, or even when you got Mike in the library, or you got Beverly, and then the whole hinting at the themes going on in her life but not expressly saying it or anything like that. Just amazing. It's just awesome. And then it ends on this note of just them going down, defeating him, come back, and shit like that. And then it ties into number 2. I'm not going to say that number 2 was as good, right? Because I think that there was a lot of elements of the book, because it is one of my favorite books. But there's some elements that definitely should have been taken out in the movie that were in that book.
Sure. Oh, yeah.
But
that was full cocaine.
But I'm just saying, I don't know. I feel like it could got nominated for cinematography. I feel like it could have got nominated.
So you're not talking Best Picture. You're just talking an Oscar somewhere.
If I were to go back and look at the Best Picture nominees of the year that it came out, what do you think's going to be on that list?
Probably a better movie than
Let's see.
It
This came out.
Chapter
It
1.
came out in
Just
2017.
you know,
All right. Oscar Best Picture.
All right,
Best
2017. I got
Picture
you. Oscars.
Nominees.
Moonlight.
2017. Moonlight was a good film.
Moonlight was the best
would
picture.
watch
La La Land.
Chapter 1 before Moonlight.
I'm with you, because that is actually a fairly weak
Look at this. I mean,
Best
Manchester by the Sea,
Picture.
that's actually really good.
list.
Hacksaw Ridge isn't bad. See, Fences, I don't think, take Fences out. Take Fences out and put in, because Fences, yeah, put in It Chapter
Put
1.
in
That's what
It
I'm saying. I say
Chapter
take
1.
Fences out. No offense to Denzel Washington, man, but Fences is a stage play. It didn't really work as a movie. I'm just going to say it. Sometimes stage plays don't work as movies. All right?
agree with you
Glenn Ross,
completely.
perfect example of that. Excellent stage play. It just doesn't work as a movie. I don't care what kind of actors you got in there. It just didn't work as a movie. It's a stage play. So we're taking Fences out. I'm putting It Chapter 1 in, and I call for a revote.
That is a fucking bold statement, man. I'll give you that. You're gonna. I don't know if you're gonna piss piss off a lot of horror movie fans, but I think you're probably not going to make the movie fans particularly happy with that one.
Show up my house. That's right.
You know what? Fuck them.
That's right, Denzel. Come for me,
dude. If Denzel Washington shows up at your house,
up at my house, I am gonna run. And I'm kind of a fat guy, so I'm not gonna run very fast. I mean, he's gonna equalize the shit out of me. That's for sure.
Yeah, but he's old as shit now, so his running in that movie is all CGI.
What's your number 9?
Okay, so number 9, I am going with The Last House on the Left. This one's a little controversial because it really, well, I don't mean the movie, I mean as a pick. So I'm a huge fan of disturbing horror movies, and these types of, I say extreme, it is certainly extreme, but not in the way most people say extreme horror. But these types of extreme films, they get at one of the areas of horror that I think is the most difficult to explore. Psychological horror, realistic horror. It's things that are so often ignored when it comes to a genre that focuses so much on, ghosts, goblins, unkillable behemoths that are stalking a never-ending line of teenagers. But Last House on the Left, I mean, this is a real story. This shit happens every day. There's nothing in Last House on the Left that couldn't and hasn't happened before. It's like just mean. It's a mean movie, and it gets to the real world things that should actually scare you. Jason Voorhees isn't going to come out of the woods and kill you, but some escaped convicts that are like evil inside and out, that shit happens every single day, and it's terrifying. It is just one of the most off-putting and disturbing uses of score and music in any movie ever made, and it's incredible. I watch it several times a year, and that may make me a fucking weirdo, but I'll take it.
I guess I can't really gripe on this one. Last on the Left is a completely disturbing film. Your reasons are interesting because I would say that it's more likely in this day and age that a Jason Voorhees would come out of the woods to kill you than my dad wetting his upstairs hallway and then electrocuting somebody in the middle of the hallway.
Okay, the ending, it depends. I mean, yeah, if you're talking about like a duel between a guy with I can't even remember what he's holding, a pipe or something, and a guy with a chainsaw, yeah, okay, maybe that's... Okay, that part's not realistic. But the actual scary part...
I totally get it. It is definitely one of those, it's scary when you think about it because of the situation in which you could be in. And you're right. It's like, we know on a certain conscious level that when we go to sleep, there's not going to be somebody that makes our dreams reality and kills us in our sleep, and we just die and stuff like that by getting slashed to death and shit like that. That's true, but I totally understand that for sure. It is a rough watch sometimes, though.
I mean,
it is a rough watch.
It is a rough watch, and it's also not a movie that you really want to recommend to somebody, because when you go and you're like, oh, what movie do you like? Oh, Last House on the Left, you got to watch this. They will never look at you the same. They're going to come back and be like, what the fuck is wrong with this guy? It's not like you're like, oh, go watch Friday the 13th. It's this dumb movie that the guy's going to kill a bunch of campers. It's like, no, go watch this story of a horrific rape and murder in the woods that plays Keystone Cops in the background for laughs. What the fuck, man? You could not make that movie the same way today. You just couldn't do it. Even the remake had to focus more on gritty horror than on a movie that juxtaposed so many different types of movie. I mean, it was slapstick comedy mixed in with one of the most disturbing rape scenes in movie history. Who has the balls to do that
we're having
today?
A girls' night. Do you recommend a movie? Yeah, you guys should totally watch it. Spit on Your Grave. I think that there's going to be some real good connecting with that one.
And I Spit on Your Grave is so overrated, too. The fact that those movies are compared is insane. And it's Wes Craven, man. It's fucking Wes Craven. You can't go wrong with Last House on the Left. I recommend watching it at bachelor parties. You should watch it at kids' birthdays. Just go for it. Just go for it. I mean, see what happens. Make sure they know what real life is like. Make sure they know what it's going to be like when they're walking to the bus in the morning, because this shit can happen to you, man.
And now that we've just finished Last on the Left, let's bring out Chuckles the Clown. Hey!
Exactly.
Last House on the Left. It's an interesting pick. It's just how many times would you say that you watch Like, do you watch it every year? Is that an every year film for you?
Oh yeah, for sure, absolutely for sure. I've got the movie poster on my wall, and I'm looking at it right now. That to avoid
Movie?
fainting,
That's
keep
a good.
repeating. It's
That
only
is a good
movie.
poster. Oh,
It's only a movie.
we'll have to
Oh,
do like a top 10 horror movie
it's so
poster.
fucking good.
Oh my god, because there are some really
Oh
good
hell
ones.
yeah!
But yeah, I'm totally gonna cut in at this point right now the audio of sometimes I wish I was a frog. And I could just jump from lily pad to lily pad. Ribbit.
Dude, that's such a terrible scene too. They could have just left that out.
Oh, it's totally
That's
going in.
so dumb.
All right.
Oh, fine. Literally cut in the worst part of the movie.
Such an amazing
for
line. I wish I was a frog.
Yeah, I
could
guess.
just jump lily pad.
I wish I was a frog.
Ribbit. All right. My number 9. My ninth favorite horror. I should mention that I actually did go back after cutting the list down to 10 in parentheses 11. I did actually re-rank them in terms of 1 through 10. So like, this is not in no particular order. This is in order for me. All right. So number 9 for me, for sure. My 9th favorite horror film is You're Next. I love this movie so damn much. It is such a great movie. It's one of those movies that's just like fun. It's like a revenge story, but also like revenge slasher story. The movie has someone who is killed with a blender being slammed through the head, and I am in for all of that. I mean, even though you could totally predict the whole like, oh, my boyfriend is kind of on the evil side thing, like when he picks up the phone, it's just like, hey, is it over? But no, but like this movie, I love this movie. There's so many good things in this movie that I love.
I'm with you. That's a damn good one, and that's also got that like home invasion sub there.
Like cross,
as well.
Cross generalizes in those
one.
genres, man. It's like a little bit of The Strangers mixed in with like a little bit of High Tension mixed in with a little bit of survivalist horror film. It's like a little bit of I mean, in that point, you're going into The Purge. It's a little bit of that. It's like it's got a little bit of these elements in every film, and it comes together for this like awesome, awkward but just tension-filled, awesome horror movie.
Yeah, and you've also got that definite final girl character too. That's I'm with you. That's a fair one.
Wait, spoilers. I should put a spoiler list. Let me say that again. Spoilers. That gets me. It's like, did he deserve to die? Because we're gonna do also a podcast on the top 10 deaths that didn't need to be deaths in horror movies. The ones that like didn't need to die but died anyway, where you're just like, that's kind of an injustice. But like,
okay, so is it more fucked up that we're gonna make that list, or that we're that dude fucking deserved to die?
Come on, man. I mean, you sit there watching a horror movie and you're sitting there like, yep, that guy got it. He deserved it. Totally deserved it.
Is it Franklin? You're talking about Franklin,
For
right?
sure. It's like, absolutely. Just like, yep, motherfucker deserved it. There's some deaths in horror movies where you're watching it and you're just like, oh yeah, guy got it. Like at the end of Paranormal Activity, when Micah gets it, you're like, yeah, Micah had to die. Yeah, that
Oh yeah,
that makes a lot of sense. Or even when you're watching in Paranormal Activity 2, like when the husband dies, and you're just like, yeah, he deserved it too. Yeah. But that cop at the end, he didn't deserve it. She just forgot about one of her traps. He just kind of walked right into it. That's true.
Well, you gotta watch where you're going,
and
man.
Then I always question, because I'm just like, if I went back and watched it, but they cut in the original ending where they were supposed to shoot Aaron, would that have been better? And I'm like, I don't think in this instance that it would have been better. I like the fact that they didn't do that. Kind of the same way that I like the fact in Get Out, like when they didn't shoot Chris at the end of the movie, like to switch it up like that. That's nice. Okay.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, where are you going to number 8?
I agree with both those points. Number 8, I'm digging into the horror comedy now, more so certainly than Hatchet. Nice. I am going Tucker and Dale versus Evil. It really is. Horror comedy is going to play pretty big on my list, because I do think when it's done right, it's potentially the best type of horror. So I agree with you on that. It's not only horror comedy done right, it's done to complete perfection. It's hilarious, it's heartwarming, it's brutal too, brutal as hell, and so many people really underestimate that piece of it when they talk about it, and it never shies away from the horror, even when it's going for laughs. The two actors, Tyler Labine and Alan Tudyk, are amazing. They do a phenomenal job with the roles, and I literally can't see them in anything else, in any other movie, without being like, oh, hey, it's Tucker and Dale. It's grown in popularity over the years, but there's still so many people that haven't seen it.
Oh, for sure.
That is a goddamn crime.
Amazing. Everything that he does is oh my god. Everything really from A Knight's Tale to doing voiceovers in Frozen.
And yes. Katrina Bowden. Oh my goodness.
Yes. That's
Oh
such a
my
good movie.
goodness.
I'm gonna go back and watch that. You know what's really funny?
Yeah, you should.
Now that I'm looking through my
You
list,
should.
and I'm
Everybody
like, wait,
should.
there's only like 2 horror comedies on my list, and I just answered that I love horror comedies. I might have to, to rethink.
I'm more than you.
Number 8 for me is this is going to border on just crossing into the best horror movies ever made. This is one of the crossovers, but number 8 for me is The Exorcist. I love The Exorcist so much. It is such a great movie.
Really?
Well, okay, so I grew up, you were saying that your dad wasn't into horror movies, and my dad wasn't either. And I grew up in a very religious household. I mean, we were Lutheran. We went to church every Sunday. Still do. And so,
Sure. Me too.
You know, growing up in that way, I was definitely exposed to the idea of like just, you know, God, Satan, angels, demons, and shit like that. And it just captures my imagination. You know, it's like, even there's a book called This Present Darkness by Frank Peretti. And the premise is that in the background, there's angels and demons fighting over our spirits at all time and controlling our actions based off of which ones we let in. And I love the idea of that, the mythology of Christianity in terms of that kind of struggle. And The Exorcist is such a good movie because of it. I think that enters into it definitely for this pick for me. Like, I love exorcism film tombs, like Exorcism of Emily Rose. I really like that one. Even the Exorcist scene in The Conjuring was one of the best, awesome scenes in a horror movie. I love that too. And like, I love it. So I definitely had to put The Exorcist on my list. Plus, so many great lines from this movie.
Well, yeah, okay, I'll give you that. I don't like The Exorcist as much as you would think, being as big of a horror buff as I am. It's a good movie, don't get me wrong. It is definitely one of those movies. I kind of feel a lot about it like I feel about Silence of the Lambs. Get in the comments. Okay. Now hold on. Let me clarify. Let me make sure. Look, it is 2024 and people can find you now, so let me clarify this. Silence of the Lambs is one of the best horror movies ever made. If you're simply talking from a quality level, from an acting level, from a writing level, from everything that you would consider an Oscar, as we were talking about earlier, Oscar caliber movie, Silence of the Lambs is dead on. It's also fucking boring for like 75% of it. So that's part of where I feel about The Exorcist. There are some scenes that are some of the best ever put on film in horror. Like, no doubt about it, they're incredibly impactful. It's iconic, like, to the nth degree. It's quite possibly one of the most iconic horror movies ever made. But, like, do I want to turn it on a lazy Saturday when I'm just sitting around? Hell no. Like, you gotta be in the mood for it. Like, I would rather watch, just the dumbest, most awful, like, just hilariously bad horror movie over The Exorcist, because it's a moody watch. You have to be in the right mood to watch it.
You know
in
what?
my opinion, that's me.
I can't really disagree with that. You got to be in the right mood to watch. You know, fuck that. I watch that movie all the time. I love that movie, and I still try to spider walk down the stairs backwards.
Does it work?
Not yet.
Not once.
But that's because I don't have the flexibility for it, you know?
You're a fucking scrub.
All right.
That's fair enough.
Also, for the record, IMDb does not have Silence of the Lambs as a horror film. Just going to throw that out there. Just throw that out there for everyone.
Yeah. Well, speaking of, here's my cheat. Number 7, and again, this is the one movie that this one and my next one, I really was very hesitant to place them where they are. And actually, when I was talking to you earlier today, I actually forgot this one was on my list, and I probably would have gone and changed it, but fuck it, I'm not going to. Number 7 is Jaws. Jaws is so fucking scary. I'm not afraid of sharks. I have never once been in a situation in my life where I've been like, oh my God, what if there's a shark there? That's not me. Like, I don't care. I can go swimming anywhere, no issues. But I can say fairly confidently that there are so many scenes in this movie that will stay with you. So many scenes in the movie that are just utterly terrifying. My mom read the book in 1970, whatever the fuck. She did not go swimming in the ocean again in her entire life because the book scared her so damn much. And the movie, oh my goodness. That's actually, Jaws is another one too that I have like one of those formative memories. The scene where Quint gets eaten is is a scene that I happened to just kind of walk by when my family was watching it in the living room, and I ran from the room screaming. It was one of those movies that made me not want to watch horror
it's
movies.
so crazy.
It's so
such
damn
a
scary.
good movie.
It is, and nobody ever told me that Steven Spielberg was going to scare the shit out of me, and I just, I would say there are maybe a handful of movies, like I'm talking 4 or 5, ever made that are perfect movies. And Jaws is without a doubt absolutely one of them.
That movie is so good.
Here's the thing about Jaws, and I talked to you about this a little bit earlier. Here's the thing about Jaws. Let's say Jaws is a demon, right? Jaws, let's say he's a shark. Jaws is a shark. He's underneath your bed, and when you go to sleep, he is lurking beneath you, trying to take you down. That's a horror movie, right? There are dozens and dozens and dozens of horror movies like that. What, it's not a horror movie because it's in the fucking ocean?
I think
That's
that it's got a
stupid.
bullshit ranking. I'm actually questioning everything on IMDb right now as we speak, and I think that Jeff Bezos has a lot to answer for.
Oh shit, I forgot about that. You know what? This is why God invented
People
pitchforks.
get in the comments on Jeff Bezos. The comments.
Grab your torches. I do feel like I do have to say, just as my own little personal soapbox, I feel like of all the reasons we're going to try to take down Bezos, making Jaws not a horror movie is probably not that important.
I will see you making Jaws not a horror movie, and I will raise you making Jurassic Park not a horror movie. So, that's...
I don't think Jurassic Park is a horror movie.
That is insane. Listen, how is Jurassic Park not a horror movie? In what way isn't it? Follows the exact same horror movie tropes as every other horror movie ever made. It opens up with an amazing opening scene of somebody getting killed, and then it goes into, light and airy, and everything's fun and good and everything like that. And then it just goes into absolute mayhem, and everybody starts ending up dying. And then they have to get away at the end. It's an amazing horror movie. It follows all the tropes. It's all the right notes. That is, without a doubt, I can't. A little tangent.
Jurassic Park is an action-adventure movie, and it is... Jurassic Park, honestly, I think for me it's a little bit different. I don't consider it a horror movie because I think it's magic.
Even if it's magic,
when I was a kid,
look at Warlock. Look at Warlock. Warlock is...
I don't mean that kind of magic. I mean movie magic. I mean, like, when I sat down as a kid to watch Jurassic Park in the theater, I could not believe that what I was seeing wasn't real. It was so good. Oh my god! Now, if you're talking all-time favorite movies,
magic. But you know what? Sleepy Hollow's labeled as a horror movie. Labeled a horror movie. So there.
Yeah, okay, but here's the thing, and this is, you know what? This is going to be another one, and I'm sorry. Again, open up the fucking comment sections. Tim Burton sucks. Tim Burton sucks.
You're not going to get an argument.
Sleepy Hollow, it doesn't matter if it's a horror movie because it blows.
Yeah, you're not going to get an argument from me on that one. But anyway, I guess, okay, so I'm just, people get in the comments on Jurassic Park whether or not it's a horror movie. I'm in a way.
Yeah, I do definitely want to read that.
Maybe we could do a poll on Slasher or something. Maybe we could, ask Damon if Slasher has a poll. We should ask him for that. We should totally ask him for that.
I don't think it does.
We should ask him for that. If we did that, then every single post for the next 5 weeks would be just polls after poll.
Yeah, that's probably true. But hold on. Let's stop here for a second and say, did anybody listening to this, all, 3 of you, do you guys know about Slasher? Slasher is a horror social media app /website. It's basically horror Facebook. Sometimes, that's a bad thing to say because it's like Facebook that talks about horror occasionally, but it's fantastic. It's where me and Ken met each other. If you guys are not on Slasher, what the hell are you doing with your life? Because you need to be. It's a great place to meet like-minded people. And I know it sounds like J-Date or something when I describe it that way, but hey, you know what?
You never know.
Maybe so. You never know.
It used to have a dating function on it. But yes, no, he is absolutely right. Rev is absolutely right. Slasher is an amazing social media app that's a special niche app specifically for horror movie fans and like-minded people in that regard. I will say this, in my 3 or 4 years of being a member of the site, met some truly amazing people off that, including Chris here. Never once have seen people get into arguing about politics or people arguing about stupid stuff. It's just people talking about their love of horror movies and sharing horror gifts all day long.
100% agree. And I also have to just point out, we are in no way sponsored by Slasher. However, Damon, you can change that, buddy. We are always welcome. We are always
Just a
happy to
phone
take your
call
money,
away.
man.
We're
I don't know how much Slasher can pay us, but we are a phone call or a direct message away, man. We will plug Slasher as long as, whatever you
That's
need,
right.
man.
The
Just
Scare Bears,
hook
brought
us
to you
up.
this week by Slasher. Anyway, all right. So that was
Slasher.
that was number 8. Oh, we're on that 7. We got to speed up, man.
All right.
No, that was
you
my
did
8.
7.
You're on
I think
7
that was
right
just
now.
my 7.
Or I didn't do 7. So you did 7. 7 was Jaws.
Yeah,
7
right.
was Jaws, and well, it deserves to be.
7 was
Jaws is
Jaws.
such a good. Shark's got eyes, black eyes. Oh, such a good movie. Anyway, all right. My number 7 is Cabin in the Woods. Cabin in the Woods is my 7th favorite horror movie, and this crosses over to the horror comedy or the horror flipping out itself. I tell you right now, the Harbinger scene is one of the most hilarious scenes in any horror movie. When they call the Harbinger and the Harbinger's like, "They shall die like the rain." Am I on speakerphone right now? It's just, I mean, I love it. When she, and the best scene in the entire movie, the one that sticks with me, will always stick with me, is when they're sitting in there, the facility guys are shooting at him, and there's the purge all button, and she presses that big red purge all button, all the monsters come flying out of there. Oh my god, such an awesome movie.
100%. And it's a tame
is.
movie until then, too. It's a movie with, very little blood, and then it just fucking goes off the rails. Like, when they press that button and those elevators open, and it's just
the commentary on horror
everywhere.
movies in general, in terms of just the one guy taking the jump with the motorbike, thinking that he can make it through the canyon and slapping the wall, but just because he's imbued with that self-righteousness of, I am the hero of this movie, or it's so great. And then the references to Japanese horror movies, the references to it's just awesome. There's Cabin in the Woods is amazing. If you haven't seen it, I don't know where you have been, but you should definitely get on that and just appreciate Bradley Whitford for everything that he is.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, and just a little spoiler alert, this does save us a little bit of time later in my list, because I may or may not have it higher.
All right, well, now we got to get there. So number 6 for you.
Number 6 is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. The OG. So Texas Chainsaw Massacre changed the face of horror, no pun intended. And there's so few movies that can say that. It's gritty, it's dark, it's super disturbing, and even all these years later, which I don't know if you guys are aware, but this is the 50th anniversary of Texas Chainsaw Massacre as of October 1st of this year. And I really genuinely think we should do some kind of special for that, because that doesn't happen that often. Well, I mean,
it happens every 50 years,
but every 50 years. That is true. But there's so many scenes in the movie that just make you feel dirty, and even all these years later, I have never seen another horror movie that makes me feel what Texas Chainsaw Massacre made me feel. And that meat tenderizer kill, the first kill in the movie, is my all-time favorite use of sound in any movie ever. That celery crunch when he caves that dude's skull in. So fucking good.
I think that we should subtitle the movie Texas Chainsaw Massacre, She Jumps Through Windows. Because that's how she gets out of every situation in the movie. It's just jumping through a window. Bitch jumps through 3 windows in the movie. She's breaking windows left and right. No wonder they want to kill her.
Okay, but is there a better way to escape than jumping through a window? Because nobody expects you to jump through a window. Think about it. If you're in a meeting at work and you're getting in trouble or something, maybe they're going to write you up and you just jump through the window, what are they going to say? What are they going to do? They have to be like, you know what? I guess we're going to have to let him off the hook because he just jumped through the fucking window.
Himself out that window.
And he just Texas Chainsaw Massacre himself.
Motherfucker TCM'd himself out that window.
Toby Hooper, and honestly, Toby Hooper is so fucking good. And side note, slightly embarrassing, I thought it was pronounced Tobe for years. I didn't hear it until I was probably about 20. So it is Toby Hooper, not Tobe Hooper. Just for anybody that
thought it was
stupid like me. Tubi. Boy, he's missing a great cross promotion deal.
Fair point.
I mean,
he's
that would
dead,
have worked, but he would have been missed.
All right, my 6 is,
what's your 6?
And this one is it's a little controversial, but I love this movie so much. My number 6 horror movie is 1408. I love 1408. I think it is it's an amazing movie. John Cusack at his finest, just carrying almost 90% of the film by himself, just in a haunted ass hotel room. Everything in that movie, from the carpenters playing on the radio and the time resets, to him trying to figure out how to destroy the room, to the projections going across there. Also, great jump scare in that movie as well. When he's talking on the phone to his wife, and then it introduces, I don't know if it introduced it, but it's kind of one of the first films that did, because I think the only one that really tried to go for it was Grave Encounters, where it was just like, oh, he totally escapes in the end, and then the walls collapse and he's right back in the room, and that goes back in. It's just again, spoilers. We should put a general spoiler alert.
You know what? Fuck him. It's like a 15-year-old movie. If you haven't seen it at this point,
I love 1408 so much. I there's so many great scenes, and they really do go for it in the movie, especially for it being such quite a movie in terms of just being in one location. Yeah, the location's got different rooms, but it's still just in one central location. That movie is phenomenal. I love everything about that movie. From just John Cusack being this jaded guy to going in, and then the end, the heartfelt end when he plays the tape recorder and you hear the daughter's voice on it, and you're just like, oh my God, and it gets you right in the feels. That's when you're like, oh wait, I do have a heart. Yeah.
But does John Cusack ever play anybody that's not jaded? I feel like John Cusack is mad at the world. It's not so much that his character's supposed to be. I feel like he's with the director, okay, so I'm going to play my character jaded, and they're like, God damn it, John, again? Every damn movie that you're in, even Hot Tub Time Machine, he's like, oh, my life sucks so bad.
Yeah, even Identity, which also is not labeled as a horror movie. Pretty much Say Anything. Not Empire Records, High Fidelity. Yeah. I'm not sure.
I was going to say
John Cusack and Striver.
He was not.
Stormtrooper.
He was not in
Stormtrooper 4.
He played it.
Yeah.
Jawa.
When Vader lands and he walks through the stormtroopers, the Imperial March is playing. Surprisingly, it's cameo by John Cusack, Stormtrooper 4, right there on the right-hand side.
He's that stormtrooper that hits his head when he's going in through that thing. That's John Cusack.
All right, what's your 5? What's going on 5? This is a big 5, halfway through.
Big number 5, halfway through. Number 5 is Gremlins. Gremlins is the essence of nostalgia for me. And whoever said Gremlins is not a Christmas movie is a fucking idiot. Gremlins is a Christmas movie. I usually don't watch it other times of the year because it holds such a resonance with me for the holidays. And Gizmo is just adorable. The creature effects are amazing. There's nothing about the movie I don't love. Who doesn't love Gizzy and the little Barbie car? Every single thing about the movie is so memorable, and if you haven't watched it in a while, it is way more brutal than you remember. This is one of the things that got me when Raimi made the Doctor Strange movie and everybody was complaining about it. It's a PG-13 movie. How can it be so whatever? Did you not fucking see Gremlins? Gremlins was PG. That scene where he's melting in the fountain is nightmare fuel, and it's amazing. Gremlins is a
really good film, and it definitely deserves to be number 5. That now make me think.
And that score is one of the best of all time.
Gremlins is such a good movie. Yeah. I got nothing. I got nothing to say against it. I can't. There's nothing you can say against it.
Fair. You don't have to argue with everything I say
so much, and that's why it makes me sad when I can.
That's fair. I'm sure I'll come up with a lot of other dumbass things to say. So
Gremlins is such a great movie, and that is a great number 5 for sure. That is, I love my number 5, but I like Gremlins too. So now I'm like, well, maybe I should just steal your number 5.
Well, what's your number 5? I mean, you can if you want to. I don't know what you're going to say, so you can just steal all mine if you want to. My
favorite horror movie, because I love the movie so damn much. And again, just getting into that horror comedy type situation, Planet Terror. I love Planet Terror so much. It is such a movie that's right up my alley, which is my zombie movie that I aforementioned earlier as well. But yeah, Planet Terror. Love it. Love everything about it. Love it to the fact that they went for it by the kid killing himself in the car. Love it when she gives her little speech where she's just like, this is my little blue friend and it's going to come. And I love it when the final scene between the brothers and he gives them the barbecue sauce recipe before they blow up the bar with those zombies inside. I love that he sticks a machine gun up her stump leg and she uses it. It just, everything about that movie is phenomenal. I love Planet Terror.
You know what? I'm going to have to watch it again because I remember watching it and being like, what the fuck is that?
That's pretty much the reaction that I think that people have the first time that they watch it. But also, it's mixed with that, what the fuck was that? But I am also very much intrigued by what I just watched. And the amazing part is going back and watching it again.
I could see that. I do truly dig the grindhouse aspect of that. I think that was it was a movie that was very much showing love to the horror that was just a little bit before my time. And I can appreciate that about it, even though it wasn't completely my cup of tea. But again, it's something I definitely should watch again because I think I've only seen it once. So I'm more than happy to edit my opinion on a second
All right,
viewing.
so you're going to watch it again, and then you get back to everybody, and you're going to be like, wow,
right.
Ken, you're pretty much a genius. You were right. That is the 5th best personal favorite horror movie I've ever seen.
I don't think that's going to happen, but you know what? Stranger things have happened. Not a whole lot of them, but stranger things have happened. So we'll see.
All right, what's your number 4?
Number 4 is Poltergeist. So, well, you fucking didn't. So, Poltergeist, in my opinion, is perhaps the best American horror movie ever made. And what I mean by that, I don't mean the best American film. It's Americana on film. Tobe Hooper's a fucking genius. This is his second movie on my list. It's terrifying. It's perfectly written and scored. It's a beautiful movie. It feels like it could have been made about the house next door. It's a perfect critique on Reaganomics and the consumer culture of the 80s and everything about it, from the football helmets on the wall to the parents smoking pot in the bedroom while their kids are in the other room. It's whimsical. It's what growing up in America used to be like before everything started to suck.
I mean, even the scene where they're fighting over the remote controls and turning each other's TVs with the remote control through the window is so amazing. Everything, Poltergeist is such an amazing film, and it's again hits that 80s note of being a PG movie when there are certain things in the movie that have no right being PG.
That's what I'm saying, man. There's absolutely no reason for that, and I will just remind you, this is another one of mine that you said should have been on yours.
Planet Terror should have been on yours, so I'm just saying, Planet Terror should have been on yours, so it's not my fault. Hey, nobody's perfect.
Well, I'll get back to you.
And the best, I will say, the Poltergeist has the best reading of the line "What's happening" by any actress or actor of all time.
That's fair. That's fair. I'll give you that one. I'll tell you what, though, too. One of the things I love about Poltergeist that nobody ever talks about is how, was it Tangina, whatever, I guess that's how you pronounce her name. She comes in, and everybody loves her as a character, right? She's in the first one, and she's in all 3, right? She's in 1, 2, and 3?
Yeah.
I know she's in 2. So she is like this iconic character, but she sucks at her job. She comes in and does this whole thing. This house is clean, and then shit goes more sideways. Everybody loves her, but she's terrible.
Bitch didn't clean shit.
You didn't clean anything. You made it worse.
So what?
You didn't clean shit. The fucking pool skeletons didn't come out till that bitch left.
She does not. She didn't clean shit. I agree.
The house gets sucked into another dimension.
What was better though? Just out of sheer curiosity, and you could be honest about this. Her scene where she's whispering about sometimes spirits, or the Family Guy takeoff when he comes in. The actor guy comes in and says, when you go to a restaurant and then you find a hair in the soup, and then sometimes, you're going to go back in there probably won't be a hair in the soup, but you just know that there's going to be a hair in the soup. Which monologue is better?
Oh, man, you're putting me on the spot here. I'm going to go with Seth MacFarlane,
because that episode of Family Guy is just amazing.
Right.
If you guys have never seen, if anybody in the audience has never seen the episode of Peter Guys from Family Guy, there is nothing that I laugh at more than that. One of the top 5 Family Guy episodes ever made. All right, so your 4 is Poltergeist, and my 4... Poltergeist was... I love this movie, too. Yeah, I love this movie too much. My number 4 is The Mist. I love The Mist.
The Mist.
Such a great
Interesting.
movie. Oh, The Mist is... It's such a good movie. It's such a character study of just like what happens when you lock people in a room and shit goes down and no one knows what's going on, and they start turning on each other. They start forming alliances. They start going after it. And it harkens back to that original Twilight Zone episode where, like, they turn off the aliens, turn off all the lights in the neighborhood, and they got that one house on, and then the whole neighborhood turns against that one house. This is the same situation, just that distrust of everybody. But since there's so much shit going on outside, you know that you have to band together, and you know that you have to survive together, but you can't because you're just distrustful at everything that's going on there. And Marcia Gay Harden plays such an amazing bitch in that movie.
Oh my god,
she's just so great.
What a great role.
One of the top scenes that will always stay with me. I mean, we'll probably do an episode on the scenes that stay with you in the future. But just a spoiler alert for that episode in the future. This scene, when they go to the pharmacy and the spiders come out. And the spider starts shooting the fucking acid web, and the limbs start melting off, and then come out of the soldier that's upside down. Oh my god, I'm out. That was that right there is just one of the most memorable scenes that'll stick. I'm gonna go with The Mist. I love The Mist. I love the way it ends. I'm on the record. I am on the record for saying that movie ended the exact way that movie should have ended.
100% agree. Yeah, that's the one that sticks with me to me.
That is mine. That is my number 4. Favorite horror movie.
That's a good one. I've got no gripes there. That's a good call. That's another one though. I don't feel like I could watch The Mist
I definitely watch every one of these movies. I would probably watch once a year. I mean, some more than others, yeah. But these are my go-to movies. I definitely watch some of these more than once a year, but every year. There are other movies that I see that I'm just like, oh yeah, that's a really good movie or blah blah blah, but I don't watch it every year. These are like revisited for sure.
That's fair, man. But that ending, oh my god, that'll fuck you right up.
Great movie.
All right, so my number 3 is Cabin in the Woods.
I've never heard of it. Can you tell me a little bit about it?
Really? Well, let me tell you about it. So I talked about how Hatchet was everything that I love about horror, and I feel the same way about Cabin in the Woods. It hits every single trope, but it hits them on purpose, not just because it's like just the way the movie progresses. It hits them because it knows it's a trope and it plays with them for its audience's appreciation. I agree with you. Bradley Whitford is amazing. So good in that movie. My favorite scene is not the Harbinger. It's the mermaid. The mermaid is so fucking good.
Just the way he's on the floor.
It's just such, come on.
It is a really good movie.
It's so good. Yeah, so I know we've already talked about it. I thought walking out of that movie that it was an instant classic, and I think it definitely is. Anybody that doesn't like Cabin in the Woods has no idea what they're talking about.
It is such a great movie. That is true.
Well, you should. It's on your list.
You got it higher. You got it what? 4 spots higher than I do. You're number 3. I'm number 7. No, it's not that.
Yeah, because I'm better.
It's that. I love Cabin in the Woods, but I don't know. I just like The Mist more. I like Planet Terror more. I like 1408 more.
The fact that you want to
are vastly underappreciating Planet Terror, sir. You are vastly underappreciating.
All right. I'll watch
so
it again.
much. Anyway, my number 3 movie, my third favorite horror movie, is also the first horror movie that I rented from our local library, because you could rent rated R movies when you were underage, whereas Blockbuster used to card me. I could walk over to the library and rent. The number 3 favorite horror movie
is Deep Throat.
It's not Deep Throat.
Damn it.
Halloween. The OG Halloween. I love Halloween. It's such a great movie. Everything that's come after it was built upon it. I mean, what could I possibly say about Halloween that hasn't already been said by 50,000 other people, about this movie? There's everything about this movie is great. I love Halloween. There's so many great scenes in the movie. One of my favorite scenes, top 5 scenes in any horror movie, is just when she's by the banister crying and he just in the background slowly gets up and looks over. Just amazing movie. I love Halloween so much, and I will never say a bad thing about it.
Okay, my gripe about that is that's way too fucking low. We're gonna talk about that in a minute.
You are gonna break my balls on number 2 being above Halloween, but that's okay. I am ready to defend, and I'm ready and prepared for it. But yes,
I don't care what you put up there. It doesn't belong above it. But again, we'll get that. All right. So my number 2 is Scream. We talked earlier. Slashers are my favorite genre, but they were dead for like almost a decade before Scream came out. It resurrected the entire genre, and I could not be more grateful. It's a damn good movie in its own right. It's the resurrection of Wes Craven as one of the preeminent voices in the genre. It's near perfect from beginning to end, and it's so meta, so many great things. I feel like Scream not only reinvented the horror, the slasher genre, but it also drew in an entire new generation into horror as a whole. Because I will say that New Nightmare, I think, was a perhaps better meta quote-unquote movie than Scream was, but Scream is a movie that is so important to the survival of this whole thing that by itself, even if the movie sucked, that would be enough to make it number 2. but Scream's so fucking good.
Yeah, I'm gonna hold off talking about Scream until later.
Oh,
No, Scream is one of the worst movies I've ever seen in my
okay,
life. I
all right.
can't understand how you would like that movie. That movie is awful, and frankly, yeah, I can't respect that at all. Exactly.
Frankly, you're
We
a
are
terrible
all now
person for
dumber
suggesting.
for having listened to that suggestion at number 2. Yeah, we're gonna hold off on talking about Scream for a little bit. All right, so my number 2,
All right.
and this is where you can ring the bell, Apollo. Ding, ding. My number 2 favorite horror movie ever made, and I'm going to get come for, is The Blair Witch Project. I love The Blair Witch Project. I love everything about The Blair Witch Project. I love the way that it was made. I love just the gritty, just independent dream of that movie concept coming together. I love the fact that it was made in the perfect time for when that movie could be made in terms of marketing, in terms of everything that came out in that movie. I cannot believe that they're trying to make that movie again, because that movie came out in 99. That movie does not work if the internet was just a little bit better. If the way that things are gone, it was just a little bit better than that movie. The whole point of that movie, and the reason that it caught on, was viral marketing of just voice to voice, person to person, telling each other about them, right? And building it up and hyping. And
so damn good.
And then
so
people just
brilliant.
calling into radio stations like, you don't understand, man, this movie's amazing. Like, I remember listening to a AM radio station interview with somebody calling in about that movie and trying to explain it to the people that were the disc jockeys on the radio station in Chicago. I love The Blair Witch Project. I love the beats that it carries with it. It is such a tight movie. It is just from start to finish. Just I don't know that I would cut that much from it. I love the lore, the concepts, everything about it. It sets it up perfectly. All those teenagers are fucking douchebags and deserved everything that happened to them. It's just the Blair Witch Project. It kicks off an entire genre of film. I don't know. Blair Witch Project is just it's one of my favorite movies of all time. I quote that movie all the fucking time.
You know, I can't disagree. I think it's the best marketing of any movie of all time. There are a lot of things to love about the Blair Witch Project. It wouldn't make my top 10 list, but it easily could have. I'm no hate from me, man. I love found footage too. I don't fucking care what anybody thinks. Yeah, that's good.
Wow,
I'm not gonna disagree with you.
Putting it above Halloween. I get that. But I'm going to justify it because I just love that movie so much. We talk about personal favorites, not best ever made. I'm just saying. That's what you said. You said personal favorites.
Look, all I'm saying is you sound like you were going to cry when you were talking about it.
I love Blair Witch Project. I will watch that movie every year, sometimes twice. All right. Okay.
I mean, okay, whatever. You're wrong on your order, so but I'll give you the movie.
We go into our number ones on both of our lists. Before we go into number one, we're going to do honorable mentions, and those are movies that we just really wanted to include on this list, but for whatever reason, I mean, we've already kind of touched on a few of them, whether they're horror movies or not compared to what they are. But I'm going to limit you. Well, actually, you could just say them. I'm going to let you go and just say some honorable mentions, and then I'll mention mine. I'll probably comment on some of yours. They're just great movies because,
I only have two. And I mean, you could include 1,000 movies in your honorable mentions for the favorite ever. So, I mean, we both love the genre so much. So you could include anything in here and it would count. But for me, the first one I would say is The Conjuring. I hesitated to put it on the list at all because it's so mainstream and it's such a quote uncreative movie, if that makes sense. It's a story that's been done 10,000 times before. It broke absolutely no new ground, but it is scary as fuck. That exorcism in the basement is one of the scariest and most inventive scenes in horror movie history. And if you're not sitting on the edge of your seat and hiding your eyes behind your fingers at that, you're missing everything that horror is about.
An amazing movie. It totally deserves to be at least in the top 10, 15. Top 15, maybe. I mean, it's going to definitely make... I'm going to have to think about it for, like, the best movie ever made. Not the best. I'm sorry. Let me rephrase. For the top 10 horror movies ever made, like The Conjuring is such a great movie. It's amazing. Easily
could fit there, and it's going to be on so many people's lists too. And it is more mainstream, so it's certainly it's not Tucker and Dale versus Evil that's kind of being found over time. It's a mainstream 100%. Hollywood movie, but it's fantastic. My next one, and this one with the caveat that I'm giving you this specific movie, but it was really difficult for me to narrow it down to this one. My second honorable mention is Final Destination 5. Yeah, okay. So it was hard because I wanted to include one of the Final Destination movies on the list because they're so much damn fun. And I don't think Final Destination 5 is the best one, but I think it's the most entertaining and has the best, most varied kills in the series. This series that's about these Rube Goldberg murders and deaths is incredible to watch. But that gymnast kill was gnarly
because
as hell.
I personally will take number 2. The opening scene of number 2 is like, I would say, top 10 opening scenes of any movie of all time. You know,
I don't disagree with you. I don't disagree with you either. And again, that was the hard thing in narrowing it down. I think everything in Final Destination 5, though, everything from the guy that's getting the acupuncture to, the hot tar on that guy's face on the bridge. I don't know. It's just, it's fantastic. And it's so much fun. It's a movie that you can just put on and be a little grossed out, a little bit freaked out, and just have a great time with.
Final Destination is an interesting series. Definitely ups and downs. Almost like if there was a roller coaster.
Oh, for sure.
I see
what you did there.
Yes. So a couple of my honorable mentions. We kind of already briefly touched on it, but Tremors. I had a hard time taking Tremors off my list. It is so stupid, but it is so good. It is so quotable. It is just amazing. I love Tremors. It's probably the one movie that my friends and I throw out random quotes to almost the most. I think My Cousin Vinny is another one, but Tremors is. It's a personal. It hits me personally. I do love Tremors.
I have never seen my mom laugh harder at a movie. And my mom died like 20 years ago. So like, granted, I haven't shared a lot of the more recent stuff with her, but I have never seen her laugh harder at a movie than the "you broke into the wrong goddamn rec room" scene.
The wrong goddamn rec room.
Oh my goodness!
Oh, such a crazy movie.
So good.
God, can you fly? Anyway, all right. The other one, which one do I want to mention? Because I mean, like, Sinister's up there, and that's, you kind of talked about The Conjuring, so we'll cross the lines on that one. The other one that really was hard to cut was The Thing. I love The Thing. I think it's one of those movies that just comes along. It's like lightning in a bottle. I mean, the amount of times that movie's just been referenced in other pop culture, and just everything about that movie is just great. I think again, just a tight
that's another
movie.
Perfect one.
Doesn't really need any changes to it. I wouldn't change a damn thing. Love the way it ends. Love everything about it. And again, I mean, everybody can reference to, when the chest opens, and it's just everything about that movie is great.
And fun fact about that too, and I obviously some of the people probably listening to this will already know, but the Norwegian guys, or whatever the fuck nationality they were in the beginning, yelling in their language about how the dog was the alien.
It's just,
it's perfect.
And also, if anybody gets a chance to, there's a board game called The Thing Infection at Outpost 31. It's actually an amazing board game. You should totally check it out. It's really good, really fun to play. Soon to be sponsored by The Thing, the board game. Infection at Outpost 31. No, just kidding.
Yeah, hell yeah, dude, just send us one of the board games. We're not picky, and we're super cheap. We are whores for this. We are your board game whores. Just send us a copy, and we're good. We're golden. We'll rep it forever.
I will do nothing short of a wet T-shirt contest.
You know what? I don't know that anybody wants to see that, but I'm down if that's what it comes.
So bad. That is a reference to a television show called Sports Night that was on in the 90s that no one's ever heard about or probably even seen an episode of, unless you were alive in the 90s. And none of the ladies,
Night
or
is
you were
so
watching
fucking
ABC
good.
time. But for the kiddos out there. But anyway, all right. Neither here nor there, off on a tangent like I always do. Rev, my good man, tell us your number one. Preach it, brother.
It's Halloween. I mean, it's gotta be. Look, here's the thing. Halloween isn't my favorite horror movie. It is my favorite movie. I've seen it at least 100 times. I literally watched like 20 minutes of it before I came back here to talk to you. I love it more and more each time I watch it. It's a movie I can quote from almost beginning to end. And like I'm sure you did, I grew up with the 90s comedies, movies like Tommy Boy, Dumb and Dumber, Happy Gilmore, all of those. Those movies that you would quote with your friends at the school lunchroom table. This has that same resonance with me. It's still scary even after all these years. He didn't become this freak of nature, he meaning Michael Myers, didn't become this freak of nature as much until later films, but the commentary on the inability to ever truly rid the world of evil is just, it's so good. John Carpenter is the best of all time. He is the GOAT, which I'm sure is another topic we'll cover eventually. And Halloween is his masterpiece.
Yeah, I've already talked about it, so I'm not going to add that much more onto it, except to say that everything that you just said was 100% accurate. It's number one. It is
That's
a
right.
great
That's why it's
movie.
number one.
Halloween is just, it is the quintessential horror movie. It is just that one. Which leads me to my number one.
I agree.
Which is Scream. My favorite horror movie of all time is Scream. I love that movie. I love Scream. I love everything about it. I gotta say, even though I could find faults in like Scream 4 and things in Scream 5, I love all of them. Every single one of them. Even number 3. Love number 3. Yeah. I got nothing bad to say about any of those movies. I think that Scream is, if probably going on a limb, because let's be honest, there were a couple weaker Halloweens. There were a couple weaker Friday the 13th, but I would say that Scream is. I did.
How dare you, sir?
You know, because we're gonna get into that Halloween 3 argument, I'm sure.
Oh God,
Season of the Witch, my ass. Anyway, but Scream is just, I think, the best horror franchise series of all time. Everything. I mean, even if you go back and watch number 2 is an amazing movie. It's commentary meant about horror movie sequels. Number 3, it just enters the whole trilogy thing in terms of all bets are off. And yes, introducing themes that had no business being introduced, but again, just keeps in that genre. And then going on 4 and 5 and then Scream 6. Scream 6, the last one that just came out, taking it out of Woodsboro and putting it in all of New York City. Holy shit, the convenience store scene alone was worth it. Just amazing. Anyway,
you know what? I'm going to fight you to the death about your order, but I can't hate the list. It's a pretty good list, man.
2 crossovers?
2, 3, I don't know. I wasn't listening that much when you were talking, so I don't know.
Yeah, that's insane.
Something like that.
I don't know your work. Let's see. We had 2, but could have been way more if I didn't make some of those cuts. Would have been way more.
It could have been way more if you didn't depend on IMDb so much.
I guess I got really no argument against that one. That one,
yeah, I mean,
I do have to lie in it because honestly, we wouldn't have a discussion about number 1 being Jurassic Park because that is my favorite movie. So.
I am 100% with you on that. If Jurassic Park was a horror movie, it would have been very close to Halloween.
Because it's like Jurassic Park or Princess Bride. Either one of my favorite movies. I don't know. It's like on any given date, those can switch. Which is like it's completely different because they're both completely different movies. Yeah. But again, fits with the whole comedy or horror.
You don't remember all the dinosaurs in Princess Bride?
It's a great. But yeah, Jurassic Park is just. I love that movie so much. Anyway, now I am going to. That is our list. So just to get you guys to know a little bit about RevHorror and Ken, where we're going to go, how this usually works, just to give you kind of an idea. There are some interesting segments we got planned for the future that we might add in there. So we're just kind of working on ideas, but this is kind of the format where it's just one of us, we're going to make a list and talk about a topic and kind of fight each other on those lists and whether or not it's good. Unfortunately, in the future, there will be many more debates, but when it comes to our favorite horror movies and when it comes to the best horror movies ever made, I think that there's going to be just a lot of agreement. How dare you say Halloween is a good movie? Halloween sucks balls.
You know what? If you want to make that argument, yes, I will gladly meet you out back, Ken. I've got no fucking problem.
And you do enjoy slashers, so never will I meet you out back.
I would 100% take you.
So anyway, is there anything that you want to mention? Any special things that you got going on until the next episode?
Yeah, man. As most of the people listening to this know, I write the horrorrevolution.com. It's just kind of the place that I go to watch whatever people are willing to send me, whatever people want to see, and just talk about them, review the movies, interview actors and writers and directors and all that stuff. And we've got new stuff coming pretty much every day. We got a couple of people also from Slasher. If you guys again want to check that out, Damon, this is the second time we plugged you during this. This first episode. Got a couple people from Slasher writing for me. It's a lot of fun, man. We do it every day, and it's something that I really enjoy.
And what was that website again?
TheHorrorRevolution.com. Not The Horror Evolution. Had I realized most people were going to think that's what it was, I would have named it something different in the beginning, but I've been doing it for several years now, and it is TheHorrorRevolution.com.
If I have the ability to plug that into like the description, I totally will. The URL. That's awesome, man. Yeah, I've had a lot of chance to read Rev's writing and the way that he does interviews, and I have to say, it's very good. And as you can tell, in this kind of format, I'm going to be the guy that makes up stupid shit, and Rev's going to be the expert on the situation.
I don't know that I'd go expert, man. That's a little bit too much. I will say though, I've always said you had a face for radio.
I do. That's not even in debate.
You've got that great like Casey Kasem voice going. Like I totally dig it.
Let's see. What would it would be like? And now, coming up on the smooth sounds of horror, it's The Exorcist.
That is, honest to God, one of the worst impressions I've ever heard in my life.
All right, well, brother, I am. I think it's time. I think we gotta cut it. I think we gotta cut it down. We're gonna slash it away.
Man. Fine, whatever.
We will definitely do this again. So until next time, again, I am Ken, and that was Rev, and I guess. Do we end it with something cheesy like "We'll see you at the movies" or what? We'll just have to we'll just end it like right in the middle of like one of us talking. It's just gonna cut out in the middle of something.